Captain Kim Tae-ho felt his heart pounding as the bridge lights dimmed automatically. The massive view screen showed empty space just moments ago, but now 3 alien figures stood before them in columns of silver light. The teleportation technology was beyond anything humanity had ever imagined. The lead alien was nearly 8 feet tall, with skin so pale it seemed to glow from within. 4 slender arms moved with liquid grace, and when it spoke, the words came from a small device floating near its elongated head. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Galactic Confederation. We come not in celebration of your achievement, but in grave concern." Commander Park Ji-min stood at the tactical station, his fingers hovering over the ship's defensive systems. Something felt terribly wrong. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to happen. Where were the greetings, the exchange of gifts, the historic handshakes that would be remembered forever? Science Officer Lee Hai-jin ran her scanners over the aliens, gathering data while trying to appear diplomatic. Her readings showed energy signatures unlike anything in their databases. These beings weren't just advanced. They were operating on principles of physics humanity barely understood. "Your species was never meant to leave your world," Veltar continued, and now Tae-ho could hear it clearly. Fear. This powerful alien being was afraid of them. "Earth is not your home, Captain Kim. It is your prison." The words hit the bridge, grew like a physical blow. Communications Officer Han Jae-sung nearly dropped his headset. Navigator Nam Do-hyun stopped mid-calculation and stared at the aliens. Even the usually calm Dr. Choi Min-ho, observing from the science station, felt his hands begin to shake. "What did you just say?" Tae-ho stepped forward, his captain's uniform, suddenly feeling heavy on his shoulders. The weight of representing all humanity in this moment pressed down on him. Veltar's 4 arms gestured in what might have been nervousness. Behind him, the other 2 aliens, one with crystalline features and another that seemed to be made of living metal, remained perfectly still, but their posture screamed tension. "Explain yourself," Tae-ho demanded, his voice cutting through the bridge's stunned silence. "Earth is our home. We evolved there. We built our civilization there over thousands of years." "No." The simple word from Veltar carried the weight of cosmic truth. "Your ancestors were brought to Earth 3,000 years ago. The planet was selected specifically as a containment facility, beautiful enough to keep your species content, challenging enough to occupy your aggressive tendencies." Park Ji-min's tactical display suddenly lit up with new contacts. Ships were appearing on their sensors, dozens of them, arranged in a perfect sphere around the UES Harmony. Each vessel was sleek and deadly, their weapon signatures showing power levels that could vaporize human ships with ease. "Sir," Ji-min whispered urgently, "we're surrounded." But Tae-ho kept his eyes locked on the alien ambassador. "You're saying we're prisoners? That humanity is some kind of criminal species?" "Not criminals," Veltar corrected, and his translator caught the subtle emotional undertones in his alien voice. "Survivors. Your people once called themselves the Terrani. In your ancient language, it meant those who consume all. Your ancestors conquered half the known galaxy before we managed to stop them." Lee Hai-jin's scanner readings spiked. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy barriers around our entire solar system. They've been there so long they're almost invisible. But now that I know what to look for..." She paused, her face pale. "Sir, these barriers could have contained us for millennia without us ever knowing. The barriers were designed to suppress certain genetic memories." The crystalline alien spoke for the first time, its voice like wind chimes in a storm. "To make your species believe you evolved naturally on Earth, to keep you peaceful." "Peaceful," Navigator Nam Do-hyun laughed bitterly. "Have you seen our history? The wars, the conflicts, the violence. That," said the metal-bodied alien, "is your species operating at less than 1% of your true potential. Your ancestors didn't just conquer through superior weapons or tactics. They adapted faster than any species in galactic history. They solved problems others couldn't even understand. They turned every limitation into an advantage." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Suddenly, humanity's rapid technological advancement made sense. Their ability to thrive in any environment, their relentless drive to explore and expand. These weren't random evolutionary traits. They were the suppressed echoes of something far more powerful. But you've broken free, Veltar continued, his fear now obvious even through the alien translator. Your faster-than-light drive shouldn't have been possible within the barriers. Yet here you are in deep space with technology that rivals our own. Captain Kim Tae-ho felt everything he believed about humanity shifting beneath his feet. They weren't the underdogs finally reaching for the stars. They were the descendants of galactic conquerors, breaking out of a prison that had held them for 3,000 years. What happens now? He asked quietly. Veltar's forearms spread in a gesture that needed no translation, helplessness mixed with resignation. Now, Captain Kim, the galaxy learns to fear the tyranny once again. The alien delegation vanished in the same silver light, leaving humanity alone with the terrible truth of their heritage and a galaxy full of species who remembered exactly why Earth had become a prison in the first place. Dr. Choi Min-ho's hands trembled as he inserted another data crystal into the analysis chamber. The alien technology hummed with power, projecting holographic symbols that hurt to look at directly. Each crystal contained thousands of years of galactic history, and what they revealed made his blood run cold. This can't be right, he muttered, running the translation software for the third time. The results remained the same. Dr. Yoon Sora looked up from her workstation, ancient texts floating in the air around her like glowing butterflies. Her expertise in dead languages had never prepared her for this. Min-ho, look at this section. It's a tactical report from something called the Battle of Seven Suns. The hologram shifted, showing a star system with 7 burning stars arranged in a perfect circle. Between them, massive space battles raged with ships that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. But it was the attackers that made Sora gasp. Those ships are, she whispered, the design principles are almost identical to our own vessels. Communications Officer Han Jae-sung paused his transmission to Earth Command. What do you mean? Look, at the angular hull design, the weapon placements, even the engine configurations. Our ships look like primitive versions of these Terrani warships. Min-ho enhanced the image, and the similarities became impossible to ignore. The alien vessels were sleek predators built for speed and devastation. They moved through space like hunting packs coordinating attacks with deadly precision. Captain Kim needs to see this immediately, Min-ho said, activating the bridge communication system. Minutes later, the entire command staff gathered in the research lab. Captain Kim Tae-ho studied the floating displays, while Commander Park Ji-min ran tactical analysis on the ancient battle footage. The records are extensive, Min-ho began, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to reveal. According to these files, our ancestors weren't originally from Earth. We're descendants of a species called the Tyranni, loosely translated as the endless hunger. The silence in the lab was deafening. Engineer Lim Young-sik stopped examining. An alien power core. Navigator Nam Do-hyun's star charts flickered forgotten in the air. Continue, Captain Kim said grimly. Dr. Yoon So-ra activated another set of holograms. The Tyranni conquered nearly half the known galaxy before a coalition of 47 alien species managed to stop them. Instead of genocide, they chose imprisonment. They relocated surviving Tyranni populations to a world they called the Beautiful Cage, Earth. The hologram showed a massive fleet operation, thousands of alien ships working together, moving entire populations across space. The scale was breathtaking and terrifying. But, Captain, Han Jae-sung interrupted, pulling up his communication logs, I'm getting reports from our deep space monitoring stations. The energy signatures we've been detecting, they match the propulsion systems shown in these ancient records. Commander, Park Ji-min enhanced the tactical displays. These Tyranni didn't just conquer through superior firepower. Look at these battle recordings. They adapted their tactics in real time, turning every enemy strength into a weakness. The hologram showed a battle where Tyranni forces faced an alien species that could phase through solid matter. Within hours, the Tyranni had developed weapons that disrupted the phasing ability, trapping their enemies in solid form before destroying them. They learned faster than anyone thought possible, Sora continued, her voice barely above a whisper. When faced with energy-based life forms, they created matter disruption fields. Against hive mind species, they developed psychic scramblers. Every new enemy type became just another puzzle to solve. Dr. Minho pulled up genetic analysis charts, but here's what's truly frightening. The aliens didn't just imprison us, they tried to change us. These medical records show massive genetic suppression programs. They literally tried to breed the tyranny instincts out of humanity. Tried? Captain Kim asked. The suppression was only partially successful. They managed to reduce our aggressive expansion drives and limit our problem-solving capabilities, but they couldn't eliminate them entirely. Every generation, more of the original traits resurface. Engineer Lim Young-sik studied the technical specifications floating around him. This explains our rapid technological advancement. We're not discovering new principles, we're remembering old ones. The lab's main display activated, showing Earth from space. But now, they could see what had been invisible before. A complex web of energy barriers surrounding not just Earth, but the entire solar system. The barriers weren't just to keep us contained, Han Jae-sung realized, reading through communication logs. They were designed to suppress our memories, to make us think we evolved naturally on Earth. Dr. Sora activated another historical record. According to this, the Terani homeworld was called Terhan, literally first hunt. It was a planet of incredible diversity, with dozens of different intelligent species that the early Terani had to either cooperate with or overcome. That's why we're so adaptable, Minho added excitedly. Our ancestors evolved on a world where adaptation wasn't just useful, it was survival. Commander Park looked at the tactical analyses with new understanding. The coalition forces that stopped the Terani, they didn't defeat them in straight combat. They had to work together, 47 different species combining their unique abilities. And even then, Sora noted quietly, the victory was barely achieved. The final battle lasted for 3 standard years and devastated 17 star systems. Captain Kim studied the ancient star maps showing the extent of Terani expansion. How much of the galaxy did our ancestors control? 43% at their peak, Minho replied. Over 2,000 inhabited systems, countless species either integrated into their expansion or displaced by it. The weight of their heritage settled over the crew like a heavy blanket. They weren't just explorers taking humanity's first steps into the galaxy. They were the descendants of conquerors returning to reclaim what their ancestors had lost. There's more, Dr. Sora said hesitantly. The records indicate that not all Terani were imprisoned on Earth. Some escaped the coalition forces and fled to the galaxy's outer rim. According to these files, they're still out there. The implications hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Somewhere in the vast galaxy, other descendants of the Terani might be waiting, watching, planning their own return to power. Engineering. Chief Lim Young-sik wiped sweat from his forehead as he stared at the impossible equation floating before him. 3 days of non-stop calculations had brought him to this moment, the chance to break humanity free from a prison that had held them for 3,000 years. The quantum barriers aren't like any technology we understand, he explained to the holographic images of fleet commanders scattered across the solar system. They're not blocking us with force fields or energy walls. They've literally twisted space-time itself into a knot around our entire solar system. Admiral Seo Jin-woo's weathered face scowled from the bridge of the UES Defiance. His ship hung near Jupiter, weapons powered and ready for the alien enforcement fleet that had arrived 6 hours ago. Explain it in terms we can use, Chief. Young-sik activated a 3-dimensional model showing the solar system wrapped in layers of distorted reality. Imagine space is like a piece of cloth. The aliens didn't just put a fence around us, they folded the cloth so that no matter which direction we travel, we always end up back where we started. But you found a way through? Captain Kim's voice carried hope mixed with desperation from the Harmony's bridge. The barriers have a resonance frequency, Young-sik continued, highlighting specific points on the model. Every quantum structure vibrates at a certain rate. If we can match that frequency exactly and create a harmonic disruption at 7 precise points simultaneously, that's theoretical suicide, Admiral Seo interrupted. his tactical display showing the alien ships maintaining their threatening positions. One miscalculation, and we could tear apart space-time itself. We're talking about forces that could collapse our entire solar system into a black hole. Commander Oh Yun-ji's voice crackled through the communication system from the UES Pioneer, stationed near Saturn. Chief Lim, what are the odds of success? Young-sik paused, running the calculations one more time. Honestly? About 12%. But the odds of the aliens letting us live if we surrender are probably worse. Captain Kim's image straightened on the hologram. Then we don't miscalculate. All ships, report status. The responses came in quick succession. Commander Oh Yun-ji. From the Pioneer checked her readings. Quantum resonators synchronized, engineering team standing by. UES Courage ready, reported Captain Bayek Su-jin from near Mars. Our resonator is showing green across all systems. From the asteroid belt, Captain Yoon Min-ki of the UES Resilience confirmed his position. Targeting coordinates locked. We're as ready as we'll ever be. The UES Determination, commanded by Captain Kang Hai-won, held position near Venus. All systems nominal. Crew is prepared for whatever happens next. Captain Cho Jae-ho's voice came. From the UES Endeavour near Mercury. Quantum field generators at maximum power, standing by for synchronized firing sequence. Finally, Commander Park So-young reported in from the UES Horizon beyond Neptune. Outer perimeter secured. Long-range sensors show more alien ships arriving, but they're maintaining distance. Young-sik studied his readings one final time. The 7 human ships were positioned at precise points where the quantum barriers showed microscopic weaknesses. Flaws so small that only human ingenuity had been able to detect them. Remember, he broadcast to all ships, the timing has to be perfect down to the nanosecond, too early or too late, and instead of creating a harmonic disruption, we'll reinforce the barriers and trap ourselves forever. On the Harmony's bridge, Captain Kim watched the alien enforcement fleet through the main view screen. 43 ships hung in space beyond the barriers, their sleek forms radiating menace. Some were the same crystalline vessels they'd seen before, but others were entirely different. Living ships that pulsed with organic light, mechanical constructs that seemed to rebuild themselves constantly, and energy beings contained within. Geometric force fields. Sir, reported Science Officer Lee Hai-jin, I'm detecting massive power buildups from the alien fleet. If we're going to do this, it has to be now. Young-sik's fingers flew over his control panel, making final adjustments to the resonance frequency. All ships, initiate quantum field generation. We have 30 seconds to reach synchronization. Across the solar system, 7 human ships began channeling incredible amounts of energy into devices that pushed the boundaries of known physics. The space around each vessel started to shimmer and distort as reality itself became malleable. 15 seconds to firing sequence, Young-sik announced, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were attempting. Remember, we fire. On my mark, hold the beam for exactly 4.7 seconds, then cut power immediately. The alien fleet suddenly surged forward, their ships accelerating toward the barriers at incredible speed. Whatever they were planning, they clearly intended to stop the human escape attempt. They're moving! Admiral Seo reported from the Defiance. Energy weapons charging. Hold position, Captain Kim ordered. If we only get one chance at this. 5 seconds, Young-sik counted down. 4, 3, 2, 1, fire! 7 beams of pure quantum energy lanced out from the human ships, each one targeting a specific point in the barrier system. The beams weren't visible to the naked eye, but their effects were immediate and spectacular. Space itself began to crack. Reality fractured along lines of impossible geometry as the barrier's resonance frequency clashed with the harmonic disruption. Colors that had no names blazed across the solar system as dimensional walls collapsed and reformed. Barrier integrity dropping, shouted Lee Hai-jin. 60%, 40%, 20%. The alien ships reached the barrier edge, just as the quantum walls began to fail. Some tried to phase through the collapsing structure, but the harmonic disruption caught them, sending their vessels spinning helplessly through folded space. Cut power, Young-sik ordered, at exactly 4.7 seconds. The quantum beams ceased, and for a moment everything was silent. Then, like glass shattering in slow motion, The barriers that had imprisoned humanity for 3 millennia finally broke apart. Captain Kim felt it immediately, the sensation of infinite space opening before them. For the first time in human history, the galaxy was truly within their reach. Barrier collapse confirmed, Commander Oh Yun-ji reported excitedly. We're reading clear space in all directions, but their celebration was short-lived. The alien enforcement fleet, recovered from the harmonic disruption, was already regrouping and heading straight for Earth. The prison walls were down, but now humanity faced their former jailers in open combat. The real test of their tyranny, heritage, was about to begin. Captain On Soo-jin gripped the armrest of her command chair as the UES Wanderer dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. What greeted them wasn't the bustling interstellar trade hub their intelligence reports had described, but an eerie graveyard of abandoned space stations. "Sensor sweep complete, Captain," reported Navigation Officer Kang Min-seo, his voice tinged with disbelief. 12 colonies, all showing 0 life signs, but the weird part is they were evacuated recently. Soo-jin studied the tactical display floating before her. Massive orbital platforms hung silent in space, their running lights still blinking in automated patterns. Cargo ships drifted between stations, their holds half-loaded as if their crews had simply vanished mid-operation. "Define recently," she ordered. "Based on power consumption patterns and atmospheric recycling systems, I'd say within the last month," Min-seo replied. "Life support systems are still running. Food storage facilities show fresh provisions. Even the entertainment centers have programs queued up for tonight's broadcasts." Communications specialist Jung Hai-won looked up from her console, her face pale. "Captain, I'm picking up automated distress beacons from throughout the system, not emergency signals, evacuation notices. They're broadcasting in 47. Different alien languages. What do they say?" Jung Hai-won's fingers trembled as she translated the messages. The same thing over and over. "The Terrani have returned. Evacuation Protocol 7 is now in effect. All citizens must report to designated safe zones immediately." The bridge fell silent, except for the gentle hum of ship systems. Soo-jin felt a chill run down her spine as the implications sank in. An entire star system, millions of beings, had fled at the mere rumor of human arrival. "They're afraid of us," she realized aloud. "An entire sector, abandoned because we're here." 3 systems away, aboard the UES Compassion, Dr. Bae Subin faced a very different but equally disturbing situation. The medical ship had responded to a desperate plea for help from the Zephyrian system, where a plague was decimating the local population. "Atmospheric readings confirmed," reported Medical Officer Kim Dong-woo as their shuttle descended toward the planet's surface. "The pathogen is airborne but contained to the lower atmosphere. Our suit should provide adequate protection." Dr. Subin checked her medical scanner as they approached the quarantine zone. The readings were heartbreaking. Millions of alien beings suffering from a disease that seemed to attack their nervous systems, leaving them paralyzed and in constant pain. "The local authorities have agreed to meet with us," said Communications Officer Yoo Ji-hee, "but they're keeping their military ships powered and weapons ready. They'd rather let their people die than fully trust us." The shuttle landed in a cleared area, surrounded by what looked like a mix between hospitals and military bunkers. Alien medical personnel in full containment suits watched nervously as the human team disembarked. The lead Zephyrian physician, a tall insect-like being with compound eyes, approached cautiously. Through a translation device, it spoke in a voice filled with desperate hope and barely contained terror. We thank you for responding to our request for aid, humans. But you must understand, your presence here violates every safety protocol. In our medical guidelines." Dr. Subin nodded respectfully. "We're here only to help. Our medical databases might contain information that could assist in developing a cure." "That's what we fear," the alien physician replied honestly. "Your species doesn't just heal, you adapt, you improve, you take knowledge and make it more efficient. What if you decide our cure isn't enough? What if you decide to enhance it, to enhance us?" As they worked in the makeshift laboratory, Subin noticed how the alien medical staff maintained constant distance. They would share information, but only through isolated data transfers. They would discuss treatment options, but never in detail. Their fear was so complete that they were sabotaging their own chances of survival. "Their genetic structure is fascinating," Subin reported to her team as they worked to synthesize a cure. "But their fear is limiting their treatment options. They're so terrified of us, they're choosing death over accepting our help." Medical specialist Park Young-ho looked up from his analysis. "Doctor, I've found the key to stopping this plague. It's actually quite simple. A modified protein synthesis that their immune systems can produce naturally, but they won't let me share it directly with their researchers." "Why not?" "Because they're afraid we'll use the knowledge of their immune systems against them later. They think we're studying their weaknesses while pretending to help." Meanwhile, on the diplomatic station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Lieutenant Colonel Moon Ji-ho was learning just how deeply humanity's reputation had spread. The space station was supposedly neutral territory, but every species present treated the human delegation like dangerous predators. "The Crystalline Assembly requests that human representatives maintain a minimum distance of 50 meters during negotiations," reported his aide, Sergeant Major Lee Sang-wook. "The Hive Collective won't even meet in the same room. They're participating via hologram only." Moon Ji-ho watched through the observation deck as alien ships constantly arrived and departed from the station. But he noticed a pattern. Whenever a human vessel appeared on sensors, traffic would immediately thin out. Ships would suddenly develop urgent business elsewhere. It's not just fear, he realized, studying the behavioral patterns. They're conducting some kind of intelligence-gathering operation. Every species that encounters us reports back to a central authority. His communication console chimed with an incoming priority message from Earth Command. The news was disturbing. Human exploration teams across a dozen systems were reporting the same phenomenon. Entire civilizations were evacuating at the first sign of human presence. But the most chilling reports came from the Outer Rim territories. Long-range sensors had detected massive fleet movements, not fleeing from human space, but converging toward it. The galaxy wasn't just afraid of humanity's return. It was organizing a response. Back aboard the Wanderer, Captain An Soo-jin made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the abandoned Kepler system, they found something the evacuating aliens had left behind. A massive data repository containing detailed files on human capabilities and potential threat assessments. Captain, Navigation Officer Kang Min-seo, called out urgently. "You need to see this. They've been watching us since the moment we broke free from the barriers. Every human ship movement, every technological advancement, every diplomatic contact, it's all here." The files revealed a galaxy-wide intelligence network that had been tracking humanity's progress for months. Detailed analyses of human psychology, tactical assessments of their military capabilities, and most disturbing of all, contingency plans for containing or eliminating the Terrani threat before it could spread. Jung Hai-won's face went white as she translated the final entry in the database. "Captain, this last transmission, it's the activation code. They're not just running from us, they're preparing to fight us." The hunt had begun, but humanity was discovering they weren't the hunters. They were the prey, and the entire galaxy was closing in around them. The emergency council chamber buzzed with panic as holographic displays showed system after system going dark. Fleet Admiral Ryu Dongmin watched the alien commanders argue among themselves, their voices rising in 47 different languages as their coordinated defensive lines crumbled. The crisis had arrived without warning from the void between galaxies. Dark matter entities, unlike anything in recorded galactic history, were consuming entire star systems. They moved like a plague through space, turning planets into lifeless husks and absorbing the energy of every living thing they encountered. "The Kepler defense line has fallen," announced Supreme Commander Veltar, his forearms trembling as he spoke. 17 systems consumed in the past 6 hours. At this rate, the core worlds will be reached within days. Fleet Admiral Ryu studied the tactical displays with cold efficiency. The alien formations were textbook perfect, layered defensive positions, carefully calculated retreat routes, and overwhelming firepower concentrated at choke points. It was exactly the wrong approach. "Your tactics won't work," he told the assembled alien commanders, his words cutting through their panicked discussions. You're fighting like prey animals. These entities don't negotiate, don't retreat, don't show mercy. To beat them, you have to think like predators. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Kreltoth of the Silicon Collective turned his crystalline form toward the human admiral. You speak of predation as if it were a virtue. This is precisely why your species was contained. And now you need what you feared, Ryu replied without emotion. Dr. Im, show them your analysis. Dr. Im Ye-jin activated a three-dimensional model showing the dark matter entity's movement patterns. The creatures looked like living shadows with tendrils that stretched across entire solar systems, feeding on anything that contained life. Energy. I've spent weeks studying these entities, she began, her scientific training keeping her voice steady despite the magnitude of the crisis. They're drawn to large concentrations of life energy. Your evacuation protocols are actually making it easier for them to consume entire systems. The alien commanders erupted in protest. General Zarkek of the warrior clans slammed his scaled fist on the table. Evacuation saves lives. We preserve our populations for future resistance. No, Dr. Im replied, enhancing the holographic display. Watch their feeding patterns. When you evacuate civilians to safe zones, you're creating massive concentrations of life energy in single locations. The entities can consume millions of beings in one feeding, rather than hunting them individually across multiple planets. Captain Zhang Miyang, standing beside the Admiral, activated another display showing human fleet movements. We've been tracking these things for 3 weeks. Every time they encounter scattered populations, they slow down. They have to hunt. When they find concentrated populations, they gorge themselves and become stronger. The room buzzed with translation devices as aliens absorbed this information. The implications were staggering. Their most basic survival instinct was actually helping their enemy. What do you propose? Asked Supreme Commander Veltar, his voice barely above a whisper. Admiral Ryu stepped forward, his presence commanding the attention of species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. We scatter the bait. Make them chase smaller targets across multiple vectors while strike teams hit their core nodes. Impossible, declared Commander Hive 7 of the Collective Mind. Our species don't operate independently. We require coordination, hierarchical command structures, unified tactical doctrine. Then you'll die unified, Captain Zhang replied bluntly. These entities adapt to your coordination. Every time you mass your fleets, they concentrate their feeding tendrils. Every time you follow standard protocols, they counter faster than you can adjust. Dr. Im activated another section of her analysis. But there's more. The entities aren't just consuming life energy, they're learning from it. Each system they devour makes them smarter, more efficient. They're beginning to predict your defensive formations before you even deploy them. The holographic display showed the entities' latest attacks. Instead of the random, chaotic assault patterns from their first encounters, the dark matter creatures now moved with tactical precision, striking at weak points in alien defenses and bypassing strong positions entirely. This is exactly what your ancestors did, Admiral Ryu told the assembled aliens. You've been fighting the same way for so long that even mindless entities from beyond the galaxy can read your tactics. Engineer Lim Young-sik stepped forward, with technical specifications floating around him. We've analyzed their core structure. They're vulnerable to certain quantum frequencies, but only when they're separated from the main swarm. Attack them while they're coordinated, and they share defensive adaptations instantly. So we force them to separate, said Captain Kim Tae-ho, joining the council via hologram from the front lines. Small teams, random attack patterns, no coordination between units. Make them spread their attention across thousands of targets. The alien commanders looked at each other with barely concealed horror. Everything the humans were proposing went against millions of years of evolutionary instinct. You're asking us to abandon our nature, Supreme Commander Veltar said quietly. We're asking you to survive, Admiral Ryu replied. The entities are counting on you being predictable. They're counting on you following the same defensive patterns that have worked for millennia. But these aren't normal enemies. They're something entirely new. Dr. Im highlighted another critical discovery. There's something else. We've detected Patterns in their consumption that suggest intelligence, not individual intelligence, but collective learning. They're not just feeding randomly. They're systematically targeting the most advanced civilizations first. Because advanced civilizations are the most predictable, Captain Zhang realized, the more sophisticated your military doctrine, the easier you are to counter. Commander Park So-young's voice crackled through the communication system from the outer rim. Admiral, we're receiving reports from human colonies that have encountered these entities. The attacks are different when they face us, more chaotic, less coordinated. Because we're unpredictable, Admiral Ryu explained to the Alien Council, we improvise, we adapt, we break our own rules when necessary. The entities can't learn from us as easily because we don't follow consistent patterns. The chamber fell, silent as the weight of the situation became clear. The galaxy's greatest military minds were being outmaneuvered by entities that learned from their victims. Only humanity, with their chaotic, unpredictable nature, seemed capable of fighting effectively. What do you need from us? Supreme Commander Veltar asked finally. Admiral Ryu smiled grimly. Everything. Every ship, every species, every tactical doctrine you've ever developed, and then the courage to throw it all away and fight like humans. The plan that emerged was audacious beyond belief. Instead of unified defense, they would scatter their forces across the galaxy. Instead of protecting their most valuable assets, they would use them as bait. Instead of following proven military doctrine, they would embrace chaos and unpredictability. It was, the aliens realized, exactly the kind of thinking that had made humanity's ancestors so dangerous, and their only hope for survival.